In this video, we're going to discuss using the nDepth tool for advanced database queries. So we discussed previously of using the Events tab to do some basic keyword search queries, but if we need to move beyond that, if you want to use multiple conditions or operators or groups, things like that, you're going to need to move over to the nDepth database query tool and do your query from there. To access that, we can click on the SEM console button on the top right corner of our dashboard. It's going to open up a new tab and load up the legacy Flash interface where this tool is located. We can go to Explore at the top and then click on nDepth to reach this page. So here we see the nDepth layout. Now this is a very powerful tool, but it does take a little bit of getting used to. So we're going to do a quick run around this interface and do some sample queries to show you how to use it and let you go from there. So at the very top, we see our drag and drop box where we can drag and drop any of these events, event groups, etc. to perform our query. We can choose our time frame in the top right corner. Right below that, we have our histogram chart, which will show you a nice visual layout of the history of these events. So you can see if you have any unusual spikes or dips in your traffic pattern during this last time frame. For example, if I were to choose last day and just do a quick search, we can see what our traffic pattern looks like over the last 24 hours. You can see it's pretty steady overall. There's a little dip here and there, but overall this looks pretty good to me. So let's build a simple query. This second column on the left is where you're going to be spending most of your time. Let's just build something simple here to have a look at it. So let's have a look at user logon events. We can just drag and drop this event name up to the top. Do a quick search. We have 100,000 results in the last 24 hours. Okay, now continuing to explore nDepth, we can add on to this. Let's have a look at this refined fields area. This is actually very useful and very unique to nDepth presently. This essentially is a numerical breakdown of our search results. So we can see how many of these 100,700 events breaks down into which different category, which different data source, which different connector name or tool alias, which event ID, right? So I can see that this particular server is sending 45,000 of those events. This Windows Security Connector is picking up 90,000 out of those 100,000 events, so that's where the bulk is coming from. And most of these are coming from the 4624 Windows Event ID in the security in Windows Event Log. Okay, so Refined Fields is there to help us break down our data, see where all this traffic is coming from, where the heavy hitters are, etc. Now, if I wanted to use Refined Fields to further elaborate or narrow down my scope of my search, I can easily double click on one of these, such as let's just look at the Cisco ASA data. I can double click on that. It's going to add a condition up to my bar automatically, and I can search again. And now we just see the user logon events from Cisco ASA. Okay, continue down this. We could go further on this. Let's actually remove this, get a little more breathing room. So if we wanted to further dive into these user logon events, we could do something like adding one of these fields of user logon to further narrow our scope. So let's say we're looking for only logon events from a specific user. We could add the destination account field to our query at the top. I can just drag it up there and add an account name, such as admin. That should limit the scope of our search to just the admin account, which as you see is far fewer results. And we could continue to add on to that. So if I wanted to get more specific, I could add something like the detection IP. Drag it up there and just limit it to a specific machine, such as, well, let's just limit it to the ASA for now. Okay. So we can continue to add on to that until we refine our results to such a degree that we're happy with the data we get. At which point we could do any number of things, such as saving this search so we can easily pull up these same set of conditions and run the search again at a later date. We can export all of this data out via this gear icon in the middle of the right side here. Just do an export to CSV. If I wanted to save it, I could click on this top gear and do a save as. Just give it a quick search. Quick search name. We can also choose to schedule it or not schedule it. If we wanted to schedule it, this same query will run for this time frame whenever we decide, or however often we decide to do that. So if I wanted to have a daily ASA logon report, say I'm running it at noon, I can send an email to any of the users on my list. And it'll essentially run this in the background whether you're logged in or not and email the results as an attachment to the persons you just selected in that list. That is an option. So on and so forth. You can continue to build the query out until you get to where you want to, but you can also use things like groups or connector profiles or directory service groups to further refine your results. So for example, rather than looking at a specific login account, I could potentially use a list of accounts, such as our domain admin accounts. So let's refine this and get rid of the ASA. Do a search there. So now we're looking for all user login events from any domain admin account, any account in that security group. Okay. If I wanted to do the opposite, I can always click on this operator here, or operand rather, and do a search again. So now it does not contain or is not equal to domain admins. So it's everyone but the domain admins. So you can see it's very flexible. There's lots of different ways to search for data here. Once you get the data you want, you have the options that of exporting and saving it. You also have these different icons down at the bottom to visualize your data, along with the refined fields, of course. So we have this different dashboard here that will show you just a summary of all these little visualizations. We have word clouds. We have tree maps, we have bar charts and pie charts and bubble charts. Okay, just different ways to visualize the data. Now for more complicated queries, you may want to move over to the bottom right icon, which is the search builder. This is literally showing us exactly what the top bar is doing, but it's in a much more friendly format. So if I wanted to add multiple conditions or start using groups, then I could easily do that. So for example, if I built a subgroup here by clicking on this add group button, I could start using some more advanced query style here. Let's try and add all domain logon accounts or logon events for 2 specific machines. I can do something like this. Now we'll just say from the domain controller and from the file server. Okay. Now once you're using different groups and multiple conditions, you want to pay special attention to these operators here on the right side. These right-facing triangles. These indicate that it is an AND operator, so everything here has to be true, which logically doesn't make sense. So I need to flip this one to an OR. So either we get a login event from this server or from this server, right? So if I do a search there, we should get some very specific logon event results. And then of course, when we get the results, we can always go back to the result details button on the bottom to see all of the data and export it if necessary. That is essentially nDepth and what you can do there. We'll see you in the next video.